yes, we are all going to perish from this earth. But for those that would like to see eternal and everlasting life, I encourage you to embrace my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ.
Just the poor sooner than the rich is all. What's the big deal, am I right? Some of you may die, but that is a sacrifice I am willing to make. Hey, shout out to all of the subscribers and members here on the channel. Don't forget to like the video. I am Reese Waters, and this is Street Politics. Now, when I think about life and death, my mind immediately goes to that famous clip from my childhood.
She's not bleeding.
Actually, no, wrong clip. No, Drago. Yeah, that was supposed to be Drago.
If he dies, he dies.
If he dies, he dies. Now, that is something that gets thrown around often, especially on sports social media when a referee refuses to intervene. But I never thought that would be something that would come out of the mouth of one of our elected officials.
So, people are not, well, we all are going to die. So, for heaven's sakes.
Well, we all are going to die. That's what came out of the mouth of a U.S. Senator and Joni Ernst. Now, just a little bit of background for who Joni Ernst actually is. Joni Ernst's net worth is estimated to be around $7.5 million as of 2018. This figure includes her personal assets, real estate investments, and other holdings. And that, by the way, would be assuming she hasn't grown that wealth since 2018, you know, with all of this tumultuous market activity that nobody is privy to beforehand, and they just play it randomly at the exact right time. So I can only imagine what that $7.5 million looks like today, which really frames we all are going to die a little bit differently now, doesn't it?
I would like to take this opportunity to sincerely apologize for a statement that I made yesterday at my town hall. I was in the process of answering a question that had been asked by an audience member when a woman who was extremely distraught screamed out from the back corner of the auditorium, "People are going to die." And I made an incorrect assumption that everyone in the auditorium understood that, yes, we are all going to perish from this earth. So I apologize. And I'm really, really glad that I did not have to bring up the subject of the tooth fairy as well. But for those that would like to see eternal and everlasting life, I encourage you to embrace my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ.
Just the poor sooner than the rich is all. What's the big deal, am I right? Some of you may die, but that is a sacrifice I am willing to make. Yeah, no, because she's a woman, so we need to put a woman on that meme. Ah, there we go. Some of you may die, but it's a sacrifice I am willing to make. Perfect. Now, I have covered this kind of sentiment from the GOP before. It's not like it's the first time they've told you exactly how they feel.
When you talk about school lunches, hey, I worked my way through high school. I don't know about you, but I worked since I was, before I was even 13 years old. I was picking berries in the fields before we had child labor laws that precluded that. I was a paper boy. And when I was in high school, I worked my entire way through. You're telling me that kids who stay at home instead of going to work at Burger King and McDonald's during the summer, should stay at home and get their free lunch instead of going to work. I think we need to have a top-down review.
You're painting
Think
a lot
about
of these
where
kids
kids
with
need
a
to
broad
actually
brush.
be.
Well, as you know, we care about veterans tremendously. I mean, that's something the president has always cared about. Anybody in blue, anybody that serves this country. But at the same time, we have taxpayer dollars. We have a fiscal responsibility to use taxpayer dollars to pay people that actually work. That doesn't mean that we forget our veterans by any means. We are going to care for them in the right way, but perhaps they're not fit to have a job at this moment or not willing to come to work. And we can't, I wouldn't take money from you and pay somebody and say, sorry, they're not going to come to work. It's just not acceptable.
Hey, MAGA. Yeah, I'm going to need y'all to come again with that whole here for the working man, for the working class, that whole populist movement that you guys had convinced yourselves was happening with this Trump administration, and reconcile that with Joni Ernst. I'm going to need y'all to do that. And while you do that, because this is the thing, we all are going to die was bad, like really bad, and the kind of thing that Democrats should take and run with and shoot to the moon. But it actually doesn't do justice to how aggressively condescending she truly was.
So when we're talking about the corrections in this reconciliation bill, again, it's corrections of overpayments and people that have not been eligible for these programs by law as it is currently written. So when you are arguing about illegals that are receiving Medicaid benefits, 1.4 million, 1.4, they are not eligible, so they will be coming off. So people are not, well, we all are going to die. So for heaven's sakes, folks, okay, no, but what you don't want to do is listen to me when I say that we are going to focus on those that are most vulnerable. Those that meet the eligibility requirements for Medicaid, we will protect. We will protect them. Okay?
That was perfect. That was the perfect encapsulation of MAGA. Hearing people talk about how concerned they are about losing their benefits, and you start talking about when you start arguing about illegals that are on Medicaid. Who was arguing? Is that who you think is in the crowd? Like, that doesn't even make any sense.
Everybody's talking about this part of the town hall with Joni Ernst.
We all are going to die.
I get it. That's an outrageous thing to say, but I want to focus on this part.
Again, it's corrections of overpayments and people that have not been eligible for these programs by law as it is currently written.
That makes no fucking sense!
She said these are just corrections to problems that happen, that people are ineligible to receive Medicare, and there were overpayments on Medicare under the law as it's currently written. Well, if that's the case, then there isn't a need to write an additional law to make those corrections. The current law exists.
It's 1.4 million, 1.4, they are not eligible, so they will be coming off.
If they're supposedly receiving benefits and they're not eligible, then you just take them off because they're not eligible. You don't need to write a whole new law. They say that the reason they're making these cuts to Medicare is because of people who are ineligible and because of fraud. If you know how much fraud there is, then you should know where it is, where it's coming from, who's committing that fraud, and you should be able to stop it without having to write new legislation.
Are not, well, we all are going to die.
We're back to that statement. We're all going to die. And they hate poor people. This is a bill to punish poor people and to make them die faster. It's eugenics.
And somehow the rank and file MAGAs think they're on the opposite side. Like, I don't understand exactly what you guys need to see or hear before you reconcile this. But what makes that the perfect MAGA clip is how at the end she tries to clean it up and talk about how the people that are most vulnerable will be protected. Like, that is exactly who's in front of your face, concerned that you are actively condescending to. That's why they're giving you that energy.
My name is Harrison Cass. I'm a former naval line officer. We clearly have a president who is destroying the federal government. You've sat back and done nothing. We're still seeing on the Senate, looks like there's a little gumption to fight back against the new dictator. But this has been like a Nazi blitzkrieg, and you folks have sat and done nothing. So my question is this: are you afraid of Trump? Are you corrupt like Trump? Or are you just at the point you don't care anymore, and that's why you don't do anything?
No. No, first, thank you for your service. I do appreciate that. Obviously, I don't agree, because I don't think our country is being destroyed. On the other hand, I see that our country is being, with the federal government, and because I've worked on these squeal issues for so long, I'm not squealing, ma'am.
That's what I heard. That is exactly what I heard. A whole lot of squealing. And as far as the question is concerned, do you only have to pick one? Do you only have to pick one? Because afraid of Trump is definitely true. We've already heard that rhetoric already now, haven't we?
What do you have to say to people who are afraid, or who represent people who are afraid? We are all afraid. Okay. That's what I'm saying. But we are. We're in a time and a place where I don't know. I certainly have not. I have not been here before. And I'll tell you, I'm oftentimes very anxious myself about using my voice, because retaliation is real, and that's not right. But that's what you've asked me to do. And so I'm going to use my voice to the best of my ability. And sometimes it will be viewed in a way that, well, that's pretty confrontational. And other times it's going to be using my mother's charm that I learned as a young girl, and in direct communication with those that I have made relationships with, and am able to affect some change that way. But I've got to figure out how I can do my best to help the many who are so anxious and are so afraid.
And that was from your own Republican Senate delegation. So you're definitely afraid of Trump. As far as corrupt like Trump, I mean, she did say we're all going to die while she's sitting on top of her coins. Now, she did do that now, didn't she? I don't know that you could move this aggressively to advance his agenda if you were not also corrupt like Trump. So I'm going to say a little of this and a little of that. And it's no wonder when you have somebody with that makeup who is acting as a senator, Iowa, how you could have a congresswoman moving like Ashley Hinson.
I was also proud to vote for President Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill last week. This is a generational investment. This is a general investment. This is your time.
I think they're using their time wisely. I think they're using their time exactly how they prefer and choose to use their time. And I would also like to highlight the caption here, which I thought was perfect. House Rep Ashley Hinson represents a fairly safe red Iowa congressional district. She may be standing in front of an angry crowd at her town hall, but her message is specifically and specially tailored for an audience of one back in Washington, D.C. And let's put this angry crowd into some context, shall we? Not exactly a profile encouraged by Ashley Hinson. In her gerrymandered district, she picked a tiny town as far away from her two blue counties as she could. There you see the map. And just in case you want some background on who exactly we're talking about, this is a woman who posted, if you take out a loan, you pay it back. There's no such thing as canceling student loan debt, while her husband's company apparently had over $143,000 in PPP loans canceled. Oh, this is that MAGA consistency. This has all of the consistency of the black fatigue discussion while trying to protect Elon Musk. Oh, good luck there. How many baby mamas showed up looking like what?
Nice. I think Columbia wants to get to the bottom of the problem.
My name is Nick Larson. I'm from Walker, Iowa. I'm going to read my question just to respect your time. I'm a lifelong Iowan who grew up on a family farm. I attended college in Iowa, worked for a large corporation for 27 years, and retired early from executive leadership to return to my farming roots. I'm a self-employed farmer and consultant and purchased my health insurance through the ACA marketplace. The recent legislation passed by the House will result in at least a $4,000 tax increase for my family of four. This, along with an 88% increase in my homeowner's insurance, an 86% increase in my farm building and equipment insurance, will increase costs for my family by $10,000 in just 1 year. Insurance costs are killing Iowans. I've made multiple requests to your office to provide more information on how you're working to preserve the ACA and not raise taxes for Iowans like me. To date, you have not responded. Several weeks ago, a small-town self-employed stylist was cutting my hair, and she said to me, quote, "I would not be able to do this if I couldn't get health insurance through the ACA." I'm an Iowa taxpayer who owns property in 3 counties, as well as 2 small businesses. I'm our local school board president. I'm a church trustee and donate time, gas, and equipment to mow our 6-acre church campus every week. I'm one of your constituents. I'm about as Iowan as you can get. Quite frankly, you owe me an answer today.
George Soros told you to say that? Huh? That sounds like a George Soros script to me, if I have ever heard one. That is, how much was he paid? I need to know how much he was. That is a diehard Democrat. That is because he drove a blue car. I saw when he came we don't have to pay no attention to him. Just scrub that from the record. Yeah, scrub that from the transcripts like we do with all the Trump stuff.
The family that my sister, she works at the VA hospital, and she's a nurse practitioner. And you guys cut funding and her staff, okay?
Actually, the funding for the VA has not been cut. That's a complete lie.
Well, according to her, yeah.
It's not been cut, though. I can guarantee that.
Well, her hospital staff has been cut, and she has 1,000 patients.
Okay, so this is a response that we've seen before. This is the kind of political expertise and know-how that we have come to expect from MAGA. Listening to a constituent talk about what they're actively going through and denying their reality. Like that, you realize how ballsy it is to deny somebody's reality. Not what they heard, not what they read, but what they're actually experiencing. And this is something, when in talking about cutting the VA, we've seen the reports and the fallout from the VA cuts from the veterans themselves. And still you want to stand up there like that. That is today's GOP in Iowa. You must be so proud because you got hit in the Senate and in the House. And just to recap, I'm listening to this woman blatantly lie to her constituents in this town hall. I heard a lot of boos during her full of baloney speech. But when it was time for the Q&A, the audience became cowards. Her white supremacist, I don't think blue states should get any federal funding or tax breaks remark flew right over the heads of the audience, except for some scattered gasps. That's dog whistle for starve the minorities and educated. That's rich considering the blue state surplus is used to cover the constant negative deficit of Iowa's budget. The tax breaks for Iowans, billionaires, will not be felt for at least a year. But her other blatant lies about Trump's meme coins, the disaster of the Fox News administration, no inflation, no price increases, Medicaid cuts, her lies about the illegal immigrants getting Medicaid, dead people getting Social Security is easily disproven. The audience cheering about immigrants getting deported won't be come harvest time. Is anyone going to recall her Lollapalooza of Whoppers when the shelves are empty, unlike now, just enough to notice? When prices shoot up on all items, not just a smattering, some may not notice a $30 more on their grocery bill, I do, or when there are no federal services. It's already too late. Now, the I don't think blue states should get federal funding or tax breaks is a fascinating one. I didn't think they would be so nakedly partisan, from the same folks that talk about our partisan justice system, right? They talk about how the government has been, politicized and things like that. The same people that talk to us about the politicization of our federal government now are just admitting and throwing out there things like blue states shouldn't get federal funding or tax breaks. And so to that, I would like to pivot because I can't expect the MAGAs to fully understand the ramifications of something like that or even know the difference in those colors. But I'm looking at the Democrats who seem to want to wait around and play nice and abide by a gentleman's agreement while they gonna lay out quite fat, I don't think blue states, not ones that violate this or that, not ones that aren't in compliance, blue states. That's what they just said. And what you gonna do? You want to still spend your time making sure the loudest among you are communicating in the exact right way? That's how you want to spend your time? Huh? Now, as embarrassing as that was, that she just threw it out there like she did, it actually wasn't the worst. This is the one thing I can say about you, Iowa. You gave us Joni Ernst and you gave us Ashley Hinson. But the good news is that Mike Flood happened in Nebraska in the exact same week.
I want to get right into questions and answers. I will tell you, a lot of you, as I talked to you on the way in, had concerns with the bill that we passed in reconciliation on Thursday morning. I voted for that bill. I voted for that bill.
Oh, you voted for that bill, huh? Well, you said that with your chest, so naturally you would be able to defend what's in the bill that you voted for and just admitted that you voted for, right?
Can you please tell us why you voted to approve a budget bill that includes Section 70302, which effectively prohibits federal courts from enforcing contempt orders? Please let me ask my question. I only got 30 seconds. Which would then allow current and future administrations to ignore those contempt orders by removing the enforcement capabilities.
I do not agree with that section that was added to that bill. This provision was unknown to me when I voted for the bill.
Okay, next question. Next question.
I am not going to hide the truth.
Well, thank goodness for that. Thank goodness for that. Sometimes you should. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's a couple instances where you might want to, you know what I mean, if it's going to cause you to get kicked out of the house in the middle of the night, or if you are an elected official who just voted for a bill that will strip people of coverage, and you didn't read it. That is probably, it's probably when you might want to hide the truth, bruh.
I voted for that bill. It allows us to extend the tax cuts that were proffered in 2017.
You promised that you would not vote for a bill that cuts Social Security and Medicare. You either lied to us or you have been bullied into voting against our health care in favor of giving $5 trillion in tax breaks to billionaires.
Most of the cuts in the bill really addressed Medicaid. When we say you have to work in order to earn the Medicaid, we don't have that problem in Nebraska. This provision was unknown to me when I voted for the bill. When I found out that provision was in the bill, I immediately reached out to my Senate counterparts and told them of my concern. And when I return to Washington, I am going to very clearly tell the people in my conference that we cannot support undermining our court system.
So there's a lot packed into what Flood just said there. He basically is saying that he went to his Republican Senate colleagues from Nebraska and told them to change the bill. Well, Speaker Mike Johnson has been very clear that there cannot be drastic changes to this bill when it's on the Senate side, because if it comes back over to the House side looking completely different, there's a good chance it won't pass because of the razor-thin majorities that he's dealing with in the House of Representatives. So there is a lot that members of Congress are going to have to deal with when they come back from this Memorial Day recess, especially, Chris, if they hope to pass Trump's big, beautiful bill, as he calls it, before the 4th of July holiday.
Well, first of all, I will say I did review the bill, and on its face, the 4 sentences that were raised dealt with civil rule of civil procedure, and as it relates to the contempt powers of a court in relation to an injunction. Only after we ended up voting on the bill did Trust from the Bar Association reach out to me and say, hey, we need to examine this. Right now, this bill, it's in the hands of the Senate. It's ongoing. I plan to support the tax cuts. I plan to support President Trump's one big, beautiful bill. We need to get this tax relief done. Now that there's awareness about the section that I referenced, I think there will be a discussion about whether it remains in the bill.
In other words, I didn't know it was in the bill before I voted for the bill. But now that I know that it's in the bill, I still voted for the bill. That's all. That is literally all that you've given us. So just so I'm clear, when you guys had an opportunity to not be nuts for a week because you were out of session, MAGA Congress gave us Everybody Will Die. They gave us denying things that we've already seen fallout from in the VA cuts and denying people's reality. And I voted for the bill even though I didn't know what was in the bill. You know, if only there was just like one magical clip where we could just put a bow around all of that, like all at the same, like denying people's reality, not caring about people's experiences and not caring what happens to them, and a complete ignorance of legislation that you are backing, like just all rolled into one.
Mr. Chairman, as I read it, your bill is giving the congressional authority to the executive to do it without Congress.
No, that's not true.
Can you
You're misinterpreting the bill.
Can you please point us to the language in the bill that retains Congress's authority?
It requires a privileged resolution in Congress.
Can you please point us to the page and the line number that requires congressional consent for reorganization of the federal government?
In sections 908 and 909 of Title V.
Which this bill amends. Which this bill is amending. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. Section 908 says striking December 31st, 1985. Can you please refer to the language that retains Congress's authority under the United States Constitution to rein in the executive to stop it from eliminating unnecessary duties, reducing federal employees, amending rules and regulations, and eliminating executive departments, agencies, independent establishments, offices, or officers of the executive branch.
You're intentionally misrepresenting the bill.
Mr. Chairman, I'm reading the bill, and
No.
I'm asking you as the
Read the bill.
sponsor to point to us where your bill, which you are trying to pass through this committee today, retains the authority of Congress.
It changes the date to 2026.
And there you have it. When the story is told about this moment in history and just how naked this corruption flowed from the top down and how that was greenlit by so many people who took their vow to protect the country and represent their constituents, MAGA 2025, I didn't read it. Also, it changed the date to 2026. That's all I saw was that. Yeah, I saw something about dates. That's what I was signing, really. Are they believing this? Hey, special shout out to everybody who joined me at our last Members Live. I done lost weeks of my life watching the most ratchet content you can ever imagine. That's just, I feel like it's a palate cleanser for me. Now, we're going to be doing a whole lot more of these. It is available to everybody who's in deep water or troubled water, and there's a link to membership in the description box to all of the videos. This is, of course, in addition to my regular Tuesday lives every week at 8 p.m. It's the irony of all the sinning that's going on in administration. They don't pay attention to it, and they put the chief of sinner among us. Like the chief sinner among us is the one that's supposed to be spreading this Christian nationalism. And that's wow. You know what I mean? Like, what a comment on our world today. Now, speaking of troubled waters, we have a very deep and growing archive of content, even some old stand-up clips. Although I call it stand-up. I don't know if the people that were actually there would call it comedy at all. I am happy to be here on the last weekend period. But we haven't actually added to the archive in a couple of months, and we're going to rectify that over the next few weeks, which makes this a perfect time to binge watch old videos if that is your preference, or you can join Troubled Waters and get a look at what the full archive complement actually looks like. And for those of you that are already members, I did post the links to the free trial for Patreon in the community tab, so make sure you check those out as well. Now, before I go, I would like to send a plea out to the ancestors. I see y'all on the rampage, and it has even come here home to D.C. I have no idea who used to own my home. I don't, and I am not responsible. I don't even know them. I got nothing to do with them. So I don't know if you want what you want me to do. You want me to put something on the door or leave a light on upstairs or just y'all send me a sign. You know what I mean? Just let me know what I need. You know what I mean? Put Soul Brother, Black Owned, like tell me something.